Right, so this video is a bit more about what we got up to at Bisley, mainly the forging. So we had Paul with us of Manticore Knives, and this year and 2 years ago, because we weren't there last year because of COVID, Paul, with our help, made a knife and an axe. Now this year he made this knife, which looked nothing like this, the steel we made it out of. I'll show you what we made it out of. And this axe. And 2 years ago he made this knife plus the sheath and the scales, the handle, in the field. I know it's funny how I've ended up with both the knives and one of the axes, but that's just how it is. So I've got a little bit of work to do on this one, to put handles on it yet, but they are magnificent working functional tools made in a rough and ready fashion in the field. So enjoy the video.
Well, Chris has got the camera on. I'll tell you one question that you get asked a lot, and it's a reasonable question, it's not a stupid one, but it is a question that you get asked a lot, and that is the way you hold the hammer. And a lot of people say, why do you hold your hammer there, when if you hold it there you could get so much more power into it, but you can't control it as well as you can when you're up here. Take off, take at the edge of the tongs.
Choke up and you get a bit more.
Yeah, you get a bit more control over it. Yeah, you can increase your power.
If you were wheeling on a billet, then you'd have it at the end, wouldn't you? Just fucking flog the back.
Right, so this is a 42-inch belt that it's running at the minute, 42 by 50mm, or 2-inch in old money. If you want to change your belts up to a 48, then if you pop round the back and you take the little ball stud out of there that's on the gas strut and you put it into that threaded hole there, and then that moves that up and that takes the machine up to a 48 inch. So you got the best of both worlds, all made from pieces from the scrap bin, including an old file.
Yeah. Right, the situation is, to get the grinder running we have to make a tool shelf, so we need a bit of welding. We don't have a welding machine, so we're using 2 car batteries. Ideally we'd like 3 car batteries, so because we've only got 2, we're cutting the welding rods in half just to minimise the resistance. So we're going to give it a go and see what happens. So it's not your standard welding machine, so I am ready to detach the welding rod if it gets stuck. Right, watch your eyeballs.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll show you in a minute, but it looked really bird crappy, but it's not too bad. In fact, I can take that off now. I say it's not a structural weld, but it's the tool shelf of the grinder, so you don't want it falling to pieces. So you weld it until you think it's stuck and then you do it again. I don't know whether I mentioned this, but we've got the negative of the battery clipped onto the welding rod end and the positive is the earth. And I'm not exactly sure why, but I am told that that does make a difference. So that's it then, we've done the welding. I'll just zoom you in on the weld and you can decide whether or not you would risk your fingers on it. So that's the weld then, it's in the field with batteries. It is far from perfect, but it will do the job. We've melted the metal on both sides, so it's not going to fall off. When we've done that side and we've done that side. So that's emergency welding in the field without a welder. But of course as long as you've got the batteries and welding rods, you can improvise the cabling and the electrode holder with just some jumper cable and use the crocodile clip on the end of the jumper cable, or mole grips or something. Right, well unfortunately I don't have footage of Paul putting the bevel on the edge using the grinder, but I do have some footage of Paul sharpening some of our axes on the grinder. I also don't have footage of the normalising process or quenching process or tempering of the knife, but that was done, so a decent knife was made. Right, so I just thought I'd finish off then by showing you some of the knives which I possess, which have come about through Paul of Manticore Knives. So we'll start then with the very first knife that I made, which is a very poor example of a knife, but that's first knife I made, and that taught me how difficult it is to actually make a knife. Let's get these out the way. The next knife I made at Bisley a lot of years ago is this little Bisley whittler. Nice handle on it, small blade, a lot of control. Am I putting it in right? There we go. So I've also got from Paul 2 legal carry in the UK knives, because they are non-locking, folding knives. This is similar. This one wants tightening up just a little. This one was just a prototype. Then my main bushcraft knife, which is this one, ferrocerium rod, nice sheath, and I've got on it a sharpening tool and some needles in there. It's also got held on with Ranger band, which is a flammable material, and that's my go-to bushcraft knife. I've got another bushcraft knife almost exactly the same as that, but I don't use this one, I just keep this one. No ferrocerium rod. There's a place for a ferrocerium rod there, but I haven't got a ferrocerium rod with that. Then I wanted a slightly larger knife which could also be used for a bit of hacking, so it doubles as a machete as well, because you just can't carry too many tools with you. So I've got this knife off Paul. Then I was kindly made for me without my asking or knowledge, and that's my Grasshopper outdoors knife. Then from Bisley 2019, collectively we made this knife. Well, Paul made it, but you know, we helped with the forge and helped with a bit of hammering and what have you. So we helped, but this was made in the field 2019, and I've somehow ended up with this knife. Then the knife we made this year, which still needs scales, and I'll end up making some sort of sheath for it as well. Then I've got a machete made by Paul, and this is based on the standard military machete, so it's pretty much along the lines of a machete I had from the military, which ended up at the farm, and it's sort of farm property now, so I'll leave it there. But this is the replacement for that. And then I've also ended up with this axe. Now, my next video will probably be on some of the fire starting methods we used at Bisley, but I will do one on this axe and I intend in the very near future finishing this axe off, just shaping the handle a little and seating it in firmly with pitch pine glue and rawhide. So when I get round to that, there'll be a video coming out on how this was made and why it is a magical axe, and it is, you'll find out why. So that about wraps it up then, and I'll catch you in the next one.